Welcome to the Path to Leadership, a podcast style event where trailblazers share their journeys from humble beginnings to powerful positions. This inspiring and motivational conversation series is designed for anyone dreaming of a leadership role, seeking mentorship, or craving insight on how to forge their own path. Whether you're just getting started or ready to rise, this event will educate, empower, and energize your goals. Your path to leadership starts with a warm welcome to Tiffany Meadow, Southeast Area Director for the Women's Health Sales Division here at Natera. Tiffany Meadow. Hi, Tiffany.
Hello. Thank you so much for allowing me to join, especially considering this is the first. So I appreciate the invite.
Yes, awesome. And we also want to celebrate Tiffany because it was her birthday yesterday. So give a big whoop whoop to Tiffany.
Thank you. I'm getting a little older, hopefully a little wiser with that too. So thank you. Much appreciated.
Awesome.
You're just getting more seasoned, not older.
Yes, I'll take the season. There we go. I'll use that terminology moving forward. Yes, a little Larry's. All right, that sounds good.
So that makes you a Cancer, right?
It is.
Yes, well, I am a fellow Cancer. My birthday's next week.
Okay.
So, yes. Loving it. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us on this important day for you.
Of course.
But also, today is another date to note. Sorry, that's supposed to be on mute. So today is also Black Women's Equal Pay Day. Did you know that?
I did not actually. I did not know that.
So I looked up a little history on that. It was started by the National Committee on Pay Equality in 1996 with the goal of equal pay days to raise awareness about ongoing gender pay gaps and how that pay gap varies significantly among different communities, particularly women of color. So I thought it was very fitting that we're having it on this day and celebrating Tiffany at the same time. So very fitting.
Love that.
You need a raise.
Yes,
right?
I'm gonna work on that. Who's on the line so we can get this going?
Right? We'll start a petition. Awesome. So I've known Tiffany for quite some time now. You can kind of look at us as dinosaurs in the Natera world, I guess, right? I see a few of you on here too. Lori, Lance, I see your faces. I know you've been around for quite some time as well. Lisa, you have as well. So I wanted to start off by giving a little bit of information about Tiffany. So Tiffany is going on her 12th year at Natera. She was hired as a regional sales trainer and a clinical field specialist on Natera's Women's Health Division. Within a little bit over a year, she was promoted to a regional sales director of the Atlantic region. And in 2022, Tiffany was promoted to the position of Southeast Area Sales Director, which covers from Delaware to Puerto Rico. So next time you're in there, down there, Tiffany, I need you to bring me some rum and some coffee, because those are my two favorite things that
everyone wants to do field travel in Puerto Rico. We need to let David know that there's quite a few people going to be traveling his way.
Yes, please do. Absolutely. And so today we're exploring a little bit about Tiffany, and not just what she does, but also how she became who she is. So with time in mind, do you mind if we jump on in?
Please do.
Awesome. So let's start with your roots. Where did you grow up, and what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so I actually grew up here in Atlanta, more in the suburbs in the Marietta area. I came from a two parent background, and so my parents have been married, I believe, almost 40 years now. So they've been together for a very long time, but very structured. Yes, very structured. Really high expectations. I always built on the stature of making sure that you're striving for excellence. I've had that foundation from the very beginning, and that has what has ultimately led me to ultimately being the person that I am right now. Always wanting to, excel, expand thought processes and things of that nature, and also making sure that I'm exposed. So, in the Marietta area, quite honestly, it is not that diverse. It wasn't when I was growing up. I was maybe one or two African Americans in my in my elementary school, and then in middle school, kind of very similar. Not a ton of diversity for which you would see around you, and then even going into high school a tad bit. It kind of gave that exact same that sex same pill. So it really did set me up very well for the corporate world. But ultimately, when you start thinking about how you're shaped and how you're molded, it was really a sense of my family in addition to some of the community for which I grew up in.
Sure. And thank you for sharing that. Was there someone in particular in your family that maybe you looked upon as a guide or someone that really influenced you?
Yes, I would absolutely say my mother is definitely that person. She herself is in leadership. She's done exceptionally well and has climbed the ladder. She's actually a CTO at a financial institution, and so it's been interesting to see her career change over the course of time as well, particularly in the technology space, which is where she is. There are very few women and very few women of color as well. And so she's had to really break the ceiling in a number of different ways. And so I've had the good fortune of being able to lean on her, not only in my leadership, but also in my leadership journey, but also just as a woman, right? Trying to navigate the corporate world and really trying to understand how do you navigate difficult and tough decisions and conversations, but also feel a sense of community when you're with those that you're working with.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's someone that's very close to you, you see every day, so definitely a
Yes.
role model,
Well,
correct?
not every
Right.
day. I'm not going to say I see my mother every day, but
But when you were a child,
definitely,
right?
but
Kind
I
of forming where
definitely
you were.
had the
Yeah.
influence. Yes.
Yeah. So when you were in school as a child, what were you aspiring to be? I know like some people are like, I want to be a fireman or
Yes.
a
Yes. So,
ballerina. Like, what did
yes.
you want to be?
So this was a very easy question for me. When I was a child, I very much was an athlete. I was involved in a number of different sports. Some I was really good at, some I was not so great at, and so I really had to find my niche. At that time, I really wanted to be a professional athlete, and so I played basketball in college, and that was really kind of the pathway that I was seeking. And so for me, it was really all about sports.
Yeah, I could see that in you.
Yes,
I could
yes.
see that drive and that competitiveness come through. So
Yes, it
that
comes
makes
out
complete
in good
sense.
ways and
Yeah.
bad.
Is that how you decided to, like, what college you chose to go to? Was it the sports that drove that?
Yeah, so I got a full ride to go to Tulane University in New Orleans. And so I was narrowing down some of the schools that I really wanted to stay more in the South. And so for me, I wanted to still be close to parents, but also wanted to be in a really good conference that was competitive. And so I was really seeking, a Division I college. And so for me, Tulane kind of checked a number of my boxes, as well as their business program was a very big interest for me. And so it aligned well, and so that's what made me go.
So you talked about choosing business as like your path. Was that because of the influence of your mom, or was that something that you knew you just wanted to get into?
No, so I think it was a combination of the two. I'd seen it, particularly in my high school and others. I had an opportunity to, along with my teammates, a number of them had or owned businesses. Their parents did, or were salespeople, and so I had some knowledge of maybe this is a good career path that I may want to pursue. And business degrees typically lend themselves to give you an opportunity to pivot, especially if you haven't really figured it out quite yet. And so, do you have all the answers at the beginning? No, but it did give you a little bit of room to kind of figure it out and kind of grow into it.
What were some of your favorite classes in school?
Favorite classes. Let's see. The class that I loved the most at Tulane was actually entrepreneurship. It was an interesting course because what they decided to do was to bring in owners, previous alumni that owned their own business and actually taught you how they manage their books. Who do you need to look for to hire? What are some of the pitfalls that they had? What are some of the failures that they had? And so it really did allow me a good opportunity to get a sense of what the business world could yield from a real world perspective, rather than what you just see and read in books.
That's really smart. Why don't more colleges do that? I wish I had
I
the
have
opportunity to
no
take something like
idea,
that.
but it really did set a precedence, I would say, for me, and really trying to understand where did I want to go and potentially what could I do, and financially what were my goals, and where did I need to align relative to where my next steps would be outside of college.
Sure, sure. And I know, growing up, going to school, being on our own, usually for the first time for many of us, we have so many experiences, right, over the course of those 4 years. Is there any memories that stick out to you that maybe help to shape who you are today?
From college,
Yeah, or even
let's
funny stories.
Yeah, that I would say shaped me. I remember, I think you have the opportunity to both grow in good news and in bad news, honestly. And so I remember vividly the moment when I knew that I would not go on to play professional basketball. And that was a really hard moment. Part of that being because, when you have those dreams, it's a lot of practicing, a lot of dedication, a lot of, sacrifice that you have to make. There's maybe some college parties you don't go to, and you're on the road, every week. There's a lot of sacrifice built into that. And when you have something that you're set on, a major goal that you're set on, that you really are at this point have to kind of pivot, like I was mentioning earlier, it can it could shake your confidence a little bit, and it can really kind of try and make you think a little bit differently about where your path actually needs to go. So that was a pivotal moment for me, for which I really had to decide what did I really want to do, and really how was I going to get myself there based on that.
And what did you do to overcome that? Because I know, like you said, if you have this goal that you've been reaching for so many years and you come to this realization, like how do you handle that? Or how did Tiffany handle this?
Yeah, so some of it, honestly, I stood in the shower and cried, right? Was the reality of having to deal with that initial set in. But it wasn't even something that I had a coach tell me. It was coming to that realization on my own. And I think self-awareness is really important. That you recognize that, hey, just because I've been on a path for a long time doesn't mean that you need to stay on that path, especially if it doesn't fit for you. And so recognizing that and being willing to be okay with saying, hey, maybe this isn't the path that I need to take right now, but I can absolutely still do whatever it is that I would like to do next. And let me figure out how to align that. So I actually set up a plan. As we were getting new recruits that came in, there was one of the fathers of one of the players that were actually coming into Tulane. He owned a business, and I actually approached him about trying to get a sales internship at his organization. They had no interns. They never had interns before. But while he was trying to pitch me on his daughter coming to Tulane, I was pitching him on how I could get a job. And so it created an avenue for which I had the opportunity to gain some experience. He did obviously let me have the internship, but what it also created was a gateway for others to come in behind me, because I took that really seriously. I took the opportunity to gain some experience for myself. I didn't make a lot of money. I remember back then it was like $8.50 was the salary, which you could pay that for an intern, right? But back then I was really looking to try and figure out what I needed to do. And I knew that with my college schedule, I really didn't have the opportunity to work in the same capacity for which everyone else was. So sometimes where there isn't a door, you have to create one. You got to find a crack, a window, whatever it is that you need in order to create opportunity for yourself, and then be prepared to step in, and then also create pathways for others to come behind you.
Mhm. And that sounds like that's coming back again from that competitiveness of being a
Yes.
athlete, right? Because I'm thinking about my first job. I made $4 an hour.
Hmm. Yeah.
And my husband makes fun of me because on my lunch break, I was working in the mall. And on my lunch break, I went to the business right next door inside the mall, the next door over, and they offered me 4.25 an hour.
Uh-huh.
And I took it and went back after my lunch and told them I was no longer working there because I got a raise. Right?
I
So
love
I feel
that. I
like
love
early
that.
on, sometimes we develop that hustle, I guess, right? To do better and to try to uplift ourselves into like the next level.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what were you doing in that job? What was the company?
So the name of the company now is it's American Hole in One. I don't even think it exists anymore. Now I think he sold it. But essentially I was a marketing intern. And while I was there, I was doing all kinds of odd in jobs, talking to customers, doing those things. But I happened to be right next to the sales department because at that time, when I was at Tulane, one of my degrees was in marketing, and so I thought that's what I maybe potentially wanted to do. But then when I saw that come to real life, I quickly understood that, hey, marketing is not my niche. That is not really for me. But what I did love was hearing the salespeople pitch, and loved hearing how they closed a deal. And really, I saw quickly that, hey, I want to do that. I don't know that I want to do this. So I went back to the person who was in control at that time. He was a VP of sales. He didn't have any interns on that side. And I said, hey, can I do a combined internship? So not only do I want my, not only do I want to come in to be an intern and for the marketing department, I'll also take on some work on your side so I can get a sense of whether or not I really want to be in sales. And so I quickly got a good taste of that and realized that that's the path that I was going to go down. And so once I got out of college, that was the path that I created.
Awesome. And so you were there for a little while, and then where did you go next?
So from there, I went to the Hershey Company. So interesting story there. I was, when you're first out of college, you don't have a lot of experience. I moved back to Atlanta from New Orleans. And ultimately, I was trying to apply for different types of jobs, but all I had was internships. And not a lot of businesses were really interested in taking on, interns or folks who had light experience in sales. They really wanted a background. So I leaned back on what I knew. I was playing basketball with the business guys at lunchtime and started networking and trying to figure out, what do you do? How much do you make doing that? What kind of, tell me a little bit about your business. And so I ended up talking to one of the current reps that worked at the Hershey Company at the time, and he said, "Are you interested in relocation?" And I really wasn't. I really wanted to stay in Atlanta. I moved back from it to Atlanta just recently, and then was going to eventually end up having to go back there again. But I took the sacrifice to move, even though that wasn't really my initial goal, to move to Florida so that I'd have an opportunity to really get some sales up under my belt. So I leveraged my network. And then I also did what I wasn't really willing to do at the beginning. I set out saying I was not willing to travel, and I absolutely did it because I needed to make sure that I had some experience.
How did your family feel about moving so far away?
They were very supportive. My mom, I had got in the car with me. My dad packed up all my stuff, put it in the trailer for me, and bought me a navigation system because at that time the cars did not have all of that
Garmin?
in it. It was a big Garmin, I think is what it was called, a Garmin back then, that was attached to the car so I could figure out where I was going. But it's crazy to think about it now because I do have such a close bond with my parents. But I literally packed up all my stuff. Here's your navigation system. And I started an outside sales job. So I really had to figure out, myself, the role, and then, living in a new place. And 3 months of living in the West Palm kind of area was my first hurricane. So outside of Katrina. So I got a warm welcome as soon as I moved down to Florida.
Oh, goodness.
Mhm.
That must have been scary. That sounds like my sister. My sister moved from Connecticut to Kentucky after college. And the first thing that happened there is they got a tornado. So
Yes.
she said she was hiding in the closet wondering why she
Yeah,
left Connecticut.
absolutely.
Yes, so those growing pains, those things that, make you who you are today.
Yes,
So
they
you're at
do.
Hershey, and tell me about that experience. How did you grow through that role?
So Hershey was again my first outside sales job. I learned at my internship that inside sales probably wasn't going to be for me. I wanted to kind of get out and be about and talk to people. And so B2B sales, I actually saw it to be extremely fun. I liked the competitive aspect of beating out the competition. I liked, asking for a clear contract. And believe it or not, you're not just you at that time. You're not just competing against your Nestle's or your M&Ms. You're actually learning a lot about the inner workings of stores and how they make money and margins, and really trying to help them understand where you can really fit, or you can really make more money off of a candy bar than you do
Mm.
a flat screen TV. So you learn a lot about business, and how to leverage it and how to have some of those conversations. So I really cut my teeth in sales at the Hershey Company, and really did enjoy that role.
And when you decided that your time was done there, where did you go
Mhm.
from there?
I went to Novartis Pharmaceuticals. So I heard about the medical industry from my teammate that was on my team at the Hershey Company. I really knew nothing about the medical industry up until she told me a little bit about it and why she was pursuing an opportunity there. And so I went to go seek out an opportunity once I figured out how much money you could make there, and really started networking myself to try and understand what's the pathway to making it into medical sales, and what does your background need to be, and all of those things. So I really did appreciate having the opportunity to kind of step into a brand new role, learning something new, and then transitioning and moving back to not even Atlanta, but to Rome, Georgia, which for those of you who know the Georgia area, Rome is a solid 45 minutes, if not an hour and a half from the metro area. So it's not close, but it was close enough for me to get back to where I wanted to go.
Awesome. And then where did you go after Novartis?
From Novartis, I went to Fadia, which is or it's basically a diagnostic company, very similar to who we are at Natera. We got purchased by Thermo Fisher Scientific, so I got to be internalized into the Thermo Fisher world. And so that led me into how I got to why I believe that diagnostics is really ultimately the place for me. It has a lot of the competitive nature associated with that you get from sports, but also to our ability to be able to help providers really make some really clear decisions for patients is something that I really enjoyed. And so the diagnostic space as a whole really did. I got my first taste there and have fallen in love with it ever since.
That's awesome. I find that there's quite a lot of athletes that go into sales.
Yes, yeah, a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
think we
this, a
just
lot of
crave
similar
that
skill
competitive,
sets.
yeah, taste,
Yeah,
right?
yes, very much so.
Yeah, Lisa's asking, as a leader, what are your hiring practices?
What are my hiring practices as a leader? Is your question?
Mhm.
Sorry. So look, I am looking for really diverse backgrounds. Like you've just been sitting here asking me, where have you been? What companies were you a part of? What made you go there? I look for consistency and performance. I look for those who think outside of the box and are great communicators because they'll have the ability to really kind of bubble up challenges and concerns. And so I'm looking when I'm hiring, I'm looking for someone who can fill a different void than what we potentially have on the team. And so that allows for a pretty good team environment, but also allows for a good competitive space. So I do look for athletes, but also folks coming from different B2B backgrounds as well, and also from medical sales if that fits that particular space. And additionally, I also look for what the territory needs as a whole. Sometimes there's like cultural community things that play a role in whether or not a rep would be really successful in that space. And so I want to make sure that I'm able to capture that so that there's representation relative to the providers that they see themselves and also who they're speaking with.
And that brings up an interesting question. So, throughout the different companies that you worked with, did you feel like there was equal representation in the different roles that you were in?
Not always. I think it depends on the hiring manager. What are they looking for? What are they comfortable with? And what they believe fits in that dynamic. So not always. I would say I saw a lot more of it in Novartis because we were a much larger organization. Fadia, not so much. I think there at that time when I first came in, there was maybe one or two people of color in the on the sales team period. And then, of course, at Natera, we have quite a few. So I've seen it evolve in different spaces depending upon the specialty as well as what the particular manager is looking for.
Sure. And speaking of management, so now you've come over to Natera, you've been in diagnostics. What made you interested in coming to Natera?
What I loved about Natera is that it basically was reminiscent of Fadia to me. It was an entrepreneurial space. You had the autonomy to be who you are, and also to bring different ideas to the table. Super competitive, high expectations. We are all in a fishbowl, so you can see who's doing well and who isn't. And so I really enjoyed that space at Fadia, and I was looking and seeking to kind of get back to that because Thermo Fisher made some pretty major changes.
And how did the opportunity to move into management first come up at Natera?
So as we continue to expand, so when I first came on as a rep, we were pretty much bringing on or a new hiring class. I felt like every 6 months we were expanding so fast. And it made sense because when I first came in, I had the bottom part of Georgia and the bottom part of South Carolina. So as we continue to keep building and building, I remember the very first question, one of the questions that Mike Malone asked me during my interview was, are you interested in doing other things? And he said, be prepared. We're continuing to expand. And at that time, in my mind, I told him yes, but quietly I said no. I didn't really see I loved sales. I loved being in front of customers and talking to them. And so I didn't really see the path to leadership really being something that I was seeking after. It was more so that as the opportunity presented itself, I saw how fast the company was moving, and I wanted to not somewhat be left behind. I really wanted to get a sense of building out a team. And really, Natera has been the only company that I've been a part of that I wanted to go into leadership because I had the autonomy to be able to make some real decisions and really build out a team and really get behind creating an environment for which others aren't always given the same opportunities.
And I know that it's such a transition when you're going from an individual contributor to a people leader. Tell me
Yeah.
about that experience for you.
Yeah, so look, it can be really hard. At least the first year is really challenging because you're so used to thinking in context of I have my individual goal, I have the things that I want to do, the things that I need to do. And when you're transitioning into leading people, it really is about them. It's not about you. And trying to help seek the best out of each individual person that you're leading. And
Mhm.
so I felt the weight of that also when I was leading or first starting to step into a leadership role, because what I saw as a new leader was not just the person, but also the accountability and responsibility of their families too. And so I wanted to be a good leader in making sure that I'm making wise decisions and that the team trusted me to make certain calls that needed to be made, because ultimately you're impacting people's lives and their career, and you want to be a good steward of that. So I took the role very, very seriously, and really tried to make sure that when I heard that someone wanted to do something or they wanted to be supported in some type of way, that I was as supportive as I could, but also honest, and making sure that there was transparency in the level for which we communicated with one another.
And coming up through management, you had your opportunity to be promoted. And
I did.
when you look around at people that are at your same level, was there any point where maybe you felt like you're being underrepresentative or that it's a little difficult to be the only one in the room? And what is that experience like?
Uh, Look, I think that that's always somewhat of the case as a person of color, but also as a woman. I think there's always going to be a little bit of that. But I think what I've tried to do is even when there isn't that full representation, I still try to come to those meetings very extremely well prepared, still creating an avenue for which it could be easy for someone to come behind me should there be a transition. And so some of that is being not guarded. I think you need to be a little bit open to having, conversations and allowing people to get to know you, but also you trying to seek out and get to know them as well. But also present information that while it may be challenging, make it palatable so that people have the opportunity to hear you and it's not lost on them on what it is that you're trying to communicate because you may not necessarily have the representation that you're seeking.
And how do you manage those moments of doubt? If you're feeling burnout, if you're feeling like, you don't belong in the room, like how do you handle that?
So I think it's about having, I like to call them like a good a council or board room. So I have a number of different people that I lean on in different capacities, not just in the medical industry, but also in other industries. I lean on my parents, I lean on friends, to get to brainstorm and to kind of think through some of the things that are on my mind or I may be stuck on. I even lean on my peers at times. So I lean on my boardroom to really kind of help me get the real information that I need. Sometimes you're being stubborn and you need to hear it, right? Sometimes your communication style isn't the best and you need to hear that. Or maybe an idea that you're seeking isn't the right path either. You need to be around people that you trust that will provide you with some feedback that you may ultimately need to hear, good, bad, or indifferent. So I think it's that, and then I think on the other side is having some things outside of Natera to do, right? Like I love to vacation. I love to spend time with my family. I actually love to plant plants and garden and things of that nature. So you've got to have some other things that will allow you to step away a bit and embrace more of what you have going on and allow you to have a little bit of balance.
It's definitely important to have your tribe, right? I
It
think
is
that
very important.
in like listening to books about leadership and really, just developing self-development, a lot of it is based on like having your tribe, having the people that you can bounce ideas off of. It reminds me of that movie Girls Trip, where they have
Yes.
like, all the girls, right? They all come from
Yes.
different walks of
Mhm.
life. They have all
Yes.
different personalities. They don't always get along, but when it comes down to it, they're going to tell you the truth, whether you want to
Yes.
hear it or not. And
Yes.
they got each other's back, right?
You need that. It's so important. It's so important to be able to have someone or have people, right, that you can be your raw, authentic self with. And if you don't have that, I encourage everyone on the line to absolutely get it, because it will allow you to have some freedom and how you think and actually will build your confidence in what it is that you're seeking to go do. And look, it doesn't mean that they're going to give you the advice that you want. Sometimes you have to be willing to take in the advice that you need to hear. But it will absolutely go a long way as you're trying to manage your career.
Absolutely. And thinking now back of all the time you've been in management and even as an individual contributor, what leadership traits do you think always have been a part of who you are? And which ones did you have to intentionally develop over time?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, ones that I think I naturally have are look, I'm a driver naturally.
Oh, here
I
comes that disc
absolutely like
profile.
yes, yeah, I'm a driver. So I tend to I tend to absolutely lean on what are our goals and what do we need to do. I'm a very clear communicator on what are our expectations, what do you need to know, but then also to give the support necessary to do those things. So communication is big for me. I'm a high communicator. Additionally, I naturally wanted my people to do well, and so being in the trenches was important to me. Not just watching them. Ultimately, they don't work for me. I work for them, right? And trying to help ensure that people are exactly where they need to be and have exactly what they need in order to be successful. And so, that was also, I think, one of the traits that I naturally had. Now, ones that I had to develop is learning how to deliver tough information to people in a way that they can internalize, and not shying away from having the real conversations that ultimately need to be had, but also making it possible for people to hear you. It is so important that if you're just always on your talk track and you're delivering in a way that's comfortable for you, so much can be lost on how you're communicating with your team. And
Mhm.
so that was one of the things that I really had to work on and develop. And then I would also state that, one of the things I also had to consider is that, everyone is not you. Everyone's not going to do things the way that you do it. They're not going to, talk about things in the way that you talk about them. They're not going to organize themselves in the exact same way. You've got to leave some space for people to be who they are. And what you're seeking to do is try and help them be the best version of them, not you. And so in helping to do that, I think I've had to develop that over time, the best way to do it, depending upon the personality of the person that I'm leading.
So, keeping that in mind, has your definition of success changed over the years?
Definitely has. It definitely has. I think the core is still we've got to drive to hit a goal. I'm a salesperson through and through, right? We've got to drive to get to where we need to be. But what has changed for me being a leader is wanting the people that I have the opportunity to support, seeing them get to their goals, both whether it's in an individual contributor role or if it's wanting to do other things within their career, that's something that I'm actively supporting. And so it's one thing to talk about it, but you got to do it, right? You got to make sure that you're there with that too. So success for me is really about trying to see the people that I have the opportunity to lead really thrive in their roles and excel beyond what I initially hired them to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting how we change over time and what that looks like, right? As far as success is maybe what we thought of as an individual contributor, and then now moving into having responsibility of so many people, because you have all the way from what, like Georgia, all the
Yeah.
way, or South Carolina, all the way, wait, to Puerto Rico, right?
I do.
So
I do.
yeah, so that definitely can change what's driven by that, right?
It
Um,
can. And look, sometimes people's aspirations change too, and you've got to be willing to support that as well. So, look, as we grow and we take on more, you got to expect that your people are going to do the exact same thing and make sure that you're in alignment with them and help them get to where they want to go, just like you've been helped. So, you got to pay it forward.
yeah, absolutely. What does building the table mean to you when it comes to leadership and representation? Because I've heard time and time again, as Black women, we always have to bring our own chair to the table. But I
Mm.
feel like in these recent times, which is why I sighed, sorry, is because I feel like it's not enough to bring our own chair to the table anymore. We got to build our own darn table, right? So, what does building the
Interesting.
table mean to you when it comes to leadership and development?
I think that means that you have an environment for which people have a voice, but feel comfortable speaking freely in the environment, so that you have the best opportunity for folks to again to be the best versions of them. So, I think it is creating an environment even when you are not yours, where you have the open dialogue for which communication can be given, you also can do it, but you're not making decisions in silos. And so that does absolutely mean that you have diversity, not just in color, but also in experience and background and others, so that you aren't kind of prone to making the exact same decision that you would have made yesterday. So I think it's an evolution and trying to create pathways for which people can get there, but also creating an environment where people feel safe enough to say what they feel, even if what they feel isn't popular, or even
Mhm.
if what they feel is contrary to the direction for which you want to go. That environment still needs to exist.
Mhm. Yeah. And looking back over time, because I want to make sure that I'm leaving some time as we wrap up our part of the interview, so I can
Okay.
leave some time for questions and answers. Um, Looking back at your whole journey, if your journey was a book, what chapter would this be titled?
Ooh, that's a good question. Right now, if the chapter that I'm in right now,
Right now.
ah, redefining excellence.
Ooh. Tell us a little bit about that chapter.
Look, I never thought that I would be in the role that I'm in today, not because I didn't think I could do it, but Because in order to do it means that you have to step outside of your comfort zone. And oftentimes I think we tend to lean on our strengths and let that strength kind of carry you. But I think you have to lean in areas to really that push you outside of what you're comfortable doing so that you can broaden your skill set. And so, you know, having to lead at the capacity for which I'm having the opportunity to lead now is very different than being an RD. And it wasn't an easy transition by any stretch of the imagination, but it has been completely rewarding. And if I had stayed in my box, I would have never moved in this direction and wouldn't have the good fortune of leading the Southeast in the capacity for which they're being led now. So it's a redefinition for me. It's an evolution, if you will, and taking on some different responsibilities, and being willing to even say you don't know, even leading at this level. So it's a redefinition of excellence. How about that?
I love that. I want to read that book.
I'm still writing it.
Chat GPT, baby.
Exactly.
So my final thing for you is I want you to look into the camera and I want you to talk to your adolescent self, the
Oh boy.
Tiffany that grew up, was living at home in Georgia.
Uh-huh.
And what advice would you give young Tiffany?
The advice that I would give is not to wait for someone to say that you're great. And wait, I think oftentimes when we're in our careers, we feel like we have, if people will observe that I'm doing a great job. And so therefore that will mean that I will step into the next role that I want, or I'll get the promotion I want, or I'll get the raise that I'm looking for. You got to be willing to open up your mouth, and you got to tell people what you're seeking, and what you want, and allow people to to fill that space. And so I think oftentimes we create chips on our shoulders a little bit because we haven't openly said what we're seeking, and we're expecting others to go ahead and do what to go ahead and fill that gap. And so I would tell myself, hey, if there's something that you want, if there's something that you're aspiring to absolutely tell them that that's what you want, right? And create a pathway for that to exist. And also, the other piece of advice that I would give myself is don't feel like you have to be 150% ready to do the role, right? You don't. You can step into a position, and absolutely learn on your way up. That is oftentimes the practice that happens in all organizations. But you got to give yourself license to raise your hand. And there are times when people get roles because they were willing and not because someone waited for them. So those are two pieces of advice that I would absolutely provide myself should at my adolescent life, I would say.
Oh my God, I love that. That is so inspiring. I love that. I love that. Oh my goodness. So I want to open this up for people. If anyone has any questions, I'm asking that you raise your hand so that we can see it on the Zoom, and then we will ask you to unmute to go ahead and do that. So let me just move this out of the way and change the view so I can see. I see a hand up from, I think, Gio. I think you rose your hand first.
Yes, ma'am. Good to see you. And I know some of y'all see my teammate Alistair in here. So, hey, Alistair. No, I'm not really. It's not
Thank
really a question.
you.
I want to tell y'all something because I was fortunate enough. Actually, I got hired by Tiffany. So basically, what she's told all of y'all is 1,000%. I told her it was kind of funny. You talked about you're never ready for the role. That hit home with me when you said that because I looked at her and she said, "Say yes or no." We were riding around probably 8 months ago. I looked at her, I said, "You hire the right damn guy." It was just, I mean, we were just in the trenches, I just told her, I was like, "What are you doing?" And everything she said, like, for me, it was like, I was a fast paced guy. She's like, "You got to slow down, go where your business is at. You've got a lot of irons in the fire. Let's just kind of condense a little bit." So, what I'm saying is not a question, just what she's told y'all, like, listen, because I am where I'm at because of her. And, I appreciate it. So congrats on all your stuff. And thanks for having me here.
The check is coming in the mail, Gio.
Thanks. I know the Venmo just went off. Damn.
I love that. Kyle, I see your hand up.
Yes. Can you describe, I guess, your mindset behind how and where you give grace? This is either to, your team and or to customers.
I think I'm a lot more graceful to my team than I am the customer. To be honest with you. Look, I think grace depends on the individual, and I think it depends on the situation. As a leader, I tend not to manage everyone or lead everyone exactly the same way. I tend to really try and understand each individual person. And some people need more grace than others, not because of just circumstances as to who they are, why they're doing some of the things that they do. I'm less graceful as it relates to performance, and the reason that is I tell you up front what the expectations are. I help you get to where you need to be, so I exhaust every
Uh-oh.
Oh, she froze.
possibility possible to ensure. So I think when you're applying grace, I think it is about one, that you're consistent, meaning that your hand is measured and that you're not showing favoritism one direction or another, but also depending upon the person and the severity for which you're talking about lending that grace, that it's contingent upon the situation, and that you also are not, again, you're not showing any level of favoritism one direction or another. So with customers, I think it's really about making sure that we set realistic expectations with them as well. And so oftentimes I think we try and build really strong relationships, but we got to make sure that relationship is functions both ways. And so if they have asked for us, I need to also be able to have an ask from you. So I will be honest and tell you that I'm quite direct with customers. But it really is trying to set a mutual level of respect for which they can ask questions of us or have demands of us. But I equally can go back to you and ask you for the same.
Awesome. Great
Thank you.
answer. Hosea, I see your hand up.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. And first of all, Tiffany, thank you for being so open and honest with us as a sales team, as your peers as well, that we go out and do the best we can every day. At least I know I do. And you also mentioned about like how you step back, how you unplug. I have a hard time unplugging from the job, and it's just like my mind never stopped racing. I'm always thinking, what can I do next? What can I do next? Like right now, I'm on this call. I'm glad I stopped, but as you can see, I'm in the waiting room. And I already had lunch. I just stayed up here and said I was doing this call because I had my fearless leader speaking. So I want to make sure that your full attention. But
Your check is coming too.
I really need to. I need to really find a way to slow myself down, right? And I need help. I definitely need help with that, I believe.
Yeah, look, I think that's really important. And Hosea, when I call you, I'm calling you for a reason. There's probably something that you need some help on, and you work us just as hard. And I appreciate you for what you do. But I will also say this, right? In order for you to be the best version of you, you have to be in a space for which you can be that, right? And that sometimes means that you have to unplug. You have to turn off. You got to make realistic hours for yourself. And you really do need to take some vacation, to make sure that you are in a good space. And so I encourage the teams absolutely to do that. Pick and choose wisely where you take your vacation, right? So that you have an opportunity to keep, pushing things forward. But, it is really important that when you have the opportunity to step away from Natera, that you genuinely do that, so that when you come back, you have the opportunity to kind of keep pressing forward the way that you need to. So find your thing, whatever that is. Start small and then build on that, right? If it's a massage every other month, then go with that, right? But allow something that intrigues you. Create a vice for yourself so that you can step away.
I need a massage. That sounds great. And a vacation.
Yes.
Thank
Take
you.
both. Take both.
Right. Alistair, I see your hand up.
Hey, I wanted to, I don't necessarily have a question, but did just want to just let Tiffany know how much I have enjoyed being under her leadership. I've not been here for a long time, uh, but just have really enjoyed learning from Tiffany. And I have to definitely agree with Gio. What she's Tiffany's very transparent, and you always know where you stand. And y'all, she means it. If you need help, she's gonna help you. So take her up on her offer. And I've got to jump off because I'm still in Gainesville, but definitely just wanted to come on and support Tiffany.
I have a lot of checks that I need to put in the mail. See, this is
I'll
big.
I'll
No one else on
compile
my
the,
team say anything else.
I'll compile all the compliments and send them to Pete. Lisa, I see your hand up.
Hello, birthday girl.
Hello, Miss Lisa.
Yes. So my question is, how do you challenge the stereotypes and sensitivity in your area, or in the workplace, knowing that your area has the most diverse area in the total of the whole company, including corporate. So
Mhm.
um how do you challenge those stereotypes?
That's a good question. As an RD, I really did seek after the best talent, but I also pressed on the recruiters to give me diverse candidates. And so you really do have to ask, right, for what you're looking for, right, in order to have it. And that wasn't a guarantee that that's the direction that I would ultimately go in. I want the best candidate, but that also means that you're reaching out to the best candidates, whomever they are. And sometimes we stay in silos about what we like or what we're comfortable with. And so I really did look at the territory to understand who would be the best fit, and then sought that after. As far as the area is concerned, I think my leaders have done a really good job of just trying to find the best candidate and being open to whomever that candidate is. And we have definitely tightened up what our requirements are, what our wish list is as it relates to trying to find A players. And so that has certainly helped, but I really do value diversity, and I try to at least express, right, where there's the opportunity for us, whether it's a woman, whether it's Asian, whatever, right, that we're finding the best candidates, but you're also seeking that out so that you have the opportunity to hire exceptionally well.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. Any other questions for Tiffany? David, you came off mute. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. I mean, hi, Tiffany. I think you kind of addressed it in other comments, but I just was wondering if you anything else to add, just in terms of, I mean, I don't know you really well, but you always come across as so calm. And I know that, in your business, it's probably not really calm. So just like, what do you do to help, maintain that kind of calmness, the centeredness, balance?
I think those on my team would probably tell you I'm not always this calm. But no, I try to internalize. Like I'm a deep thinker. Sometimes I overthink, and I have to allow things to kind of process a bit. I tend to, kind of go by the old adage, measure twice, cut once. And so before I respond, I want to really think about, what is the impact of what I'm going to say? Is the person going to hear it the way that I need it to be heard? But also to kind of put myself in that person's shoes before I start communicating with them. And so so it allows me to be a little bit in a calm space because I've thought about it, and I'm prepared for it. And that's even, when the person does take the information in a way that I'm maybe not hoping that it will land. I still try and try and kind of keep things on course. So if you're anxious, or if you are, overly aggressive or whatever the case, you tend to get the exact same energy. So I think, trying to keep it a tad bit calm allows for other people to be calm too.
That's great advice. And yeah, thanks.
Yeah, not a problem.
Anybody else have any questions?
Oh, hello, hi. May I ask a question?
Sure.
Hi, Tiffany. Thank you again for doing this. So I'm Josh. I work in the lab actually, and I always actually wondered, like, could you just? I know we don't have much time left. Can you just tell us actually what sales people do in like actually selling our products for Natera?
So what do we do is your question?
Yeah, like exactly like a day to day. Like if you're selling our our products for Natera, what exactly are you
Mhm.
meeting with, like physicians, with patients, or like with other
Oh, I
people?
see. Yes, yeah, yeah. So the sales reps, along with the leaders, are typically in the field talking to doctors or midwives or nurse practitioners, and really kind of educating them on our tests, competing against our competition where they may be using somebody different and giving them a value proposition as to why they should stay with Natera. So it's not just on our immediate products, it's also on some of the resources that we have available to them to help them better use our products. But the day-to-day trench is absolutely getting in front of providers and helping to persuade them or change their mind to move more towards Natera than anybody else.
Thank you.
We tend to forget on the sales side that not everybody knows actually
That
what
is
we're
true.
doing if they work at Natera, right? We just assume everybody knows what we do.
Yeah. That is very
That's a
true.
great question.
That is a
That's a
good
great place to
question.
start with. And
Thank
we
you
have
for that,
time for
Jen.
one more question, and I see Melanie Brown has her hand up.
Oh, I've got another check to write.
Hi, Tiffany. Um, so yes, I obviously agree with what everyone says, compliments and all that wise, but I did want to ask, when you were in the field and I know you said you had to kind of get out of your comfort zone to grow and obviously to be great and achieve your goals. What were some of the things that you feel like you did that were the most helpful in terms of like getting out of your comfort zone, or what are some of the, I guess, skills or things that you changed to be able to like do that and be successful?
Yeah, it's a good question. So one is just raise your hand and say you want to do something different, right? Or that you're interested. Be willing to put yourself out there. Like I mentioned, even if you aren't or don't have all the skills or don't have all the experience quite yet, willingness goes a long way. Okay, so that's the first thing. But the other things that I did was I started working on leading before I led, or I had the opportunity to lead. And so some of that was more so about, reaching out to other people that were already doing the role so that I had an understanding of what I was getting myself into. Where I saw or felt like I had deficits, I started taking on doing some of those things to try and help build on that skill set. And so it was, while I'm saying to you, you don't have to be 100% ready. You do got to do some work, right? You got to put some things out there. And so I read a little bit on some leadership books to try to get myself prepared, but then just also mainly I connected with people that were already walking the journey so that there were lessons that I didn't have to learn myself. They had already been taught. So I just needed to take down the notes. And so that was really important for me as well. So applying that from a field perspective based on where it is that you want to go, and what it is that you're trying to accomplish, I would absolutely align myself with those who are doing exceptionally well at the role, because you want to learn good habits, and good things to internalize and start applying some of those things.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
Awesome. Well, thank you so, so much, Tiffany, for your time, for agreeing to do this, for sharing your insights, your background, and
Absolutely.
what makes you like an amazing, amazing leader here in Natera. So, from the bottom of my heart, I really do thank you. Happy birthday again.
Thank you. Much appreciated. Thank you
Mine
so much for the
too.
opportunity.
And I look forward to seeing more successes in your career.
Hopefully so.
Awesome. And just as a reminder, everyone, if anyone could join us on Friday, Alicia, which is on the call right now, is hosting our Dig the Tea. That is at 3 p.m. Eastern Time Friday. And we are going to be talking about tokenism in the workplace. Very interesting topic. So if you can join us for that, do that. And until next time, we will see you soon.
See you
Take care,
guys. Have a good
everybody.
one.
And thanks.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.